All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about some real unsung heroes today. These are the specialists on the absolute front lines of one of the toughest neurological diseases out there, and they are a lifeline for thousands of people.
But first, before we get into the specifics, I want you to just think about something for a second. What if you lost your voice? I mean, really lost it. The ability to ask for a glass of water, to say I love you, to just tell a stupid joke. Imagine what that would be like.
Well, for a staggering 95% of people with ALS, that's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, that question isn't hypothetical at all. It's the reality they're facing. As the disease moves forward, it threatens to take away not just their voice, but something even more fundamental, their ability to swallow safely.
But here's the thing. In that fight, in that struggle to stay connected, there's a specialist who steps right into that gap. And that's who we're talking about today. They're the hidden heroes of ALS care, the speech-language pathologist, or, as you'll often hear, the SLP.
So, to really get what an SLP does, you first have to understand what they're up against. You see, ALS isn't just about the body failing. It's a disease that can slowly, cruelly trap someone in a world of silence.
Okay, so what's actually happening here? ALS basically attacks the nerve cells, the motor neurons that control your muscles. And this leads to two huge challenges that SLPs tackle head-on. The first is called dysarthria. That's the clinical term for having trouble speaking. And the second is dysphagia, which is difficulty swallowing.
All right, so how does an SLP even begin to fight back against something like this? Well, their first job is a total race against the clock. It's all about one thing: keeping the patient's own natural voice going for as long as humanly possible. And what's so cool about this is how proactive it is. We're not talking about waiting for the problem to get bad. SLPs jump in early, teaching really practical stuff. Things like speech pacing, basically learning to slow down to make your words clearer. They also use targeted exercises for the muscles in your mouth, and, super important, breathing strategies to give your voice the power it needs.
And, you know, the tools they use aren't some kind of sci-fi tech. They're super practical. Think about it. Simple boards to help you pace your words, a metronome app on your smartphone, or a small voice amplifier. These are real-world tools with a very clear goal, just to make someone 10 to 20% easier to understand. And that small percentage, it's huge.
But look, with a progressive disease like ALS, there comes a point where just preserving the voice isn't enough. And that's when the SLP's job totally transforms. They go from being a therapist to being more like an architect. They're literally building a tech bridge so that person can keep communicating no matter what.
This is where we enter the world of what's called AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, and it's a whole spectrum. On the low-tech end, you've got things like custom-made communication boards, but on the high-tech end, wow. For patients who can't move much at all, there are these incredible systems that can take the tiniest movement of their eyes and turn it into spoken words. It's just amazing.
So, you see, the SLP has to become more than a therapist. They have to be an expert navigator in this whole complex world of tech. They're the ones who work with all these innovative companies to sift through the options and find the perfect device for each individual patient's needs. It's a huge responsibility. And it's not like they just drop off a box and say, good luck. No way. The SLP is the coach, the guide, the one who sits there day after day. I mean, just stop and think about that. They're teaching someone how to type with their eyes and get up to speeds of 10 to 20 words a minute. It's an absolutely incredible process of unlocking a person's voice again.
Okay, so communication is massive, right? But the SLP's job is actually two-sided. It goes beyond talking and connects to something just as fundamental, something that keeps us alive: being able to eat and drink safely. And it's a lot like the speech therapy. Their approach to swallowing changes as the disease progresses. You know, in the early stages, it might be as simple as recommending softer foods that are easier to chew. Then, as things get tougher, they might introduce things like pureed foods or special thickened liquids. This helps prevent food from going down the wrong pipe. And then, in the later stages, they play a crucial role in helping a patient and their family navigate the decision to use a feeding tube. Yeah, and this quote right here, it just nails it. This isn't just about the mechanics, you know? It's about safety, for sure. It's about getting proper nutrition, but it's also about dignity. It's about preserving that simple human pleasure of a meal with every single bite. So, okay, We can all agree this kind of care is priceless on a human level, right? But what if we actually put a price tag on it? Let's switch gears and look at the straight-up economic value that these SLPs bring to the table. The numbers might surprise you.
First, look at this number, $40,000. That's the average cost for one hospital stay because of something called aspiration pneumonia. That's what happens when food or drink goes into the lungs, and it can be deadly. And that is exactly what SLPs work day in and day out to prevent.
Okay, so you've got that $40,000 bill in your head. Now look at this range. This is how much money an SLP's work can save per patient, per year. Just by preventing those super expensive, dangerous complications, they deliver a massive financial return. It's incredible.
And it's not just about that one big hospital bill. The savings create this amazing ripple effect. Yeah, it reduces hospital stays, which is huge, but it also eases the incredible strain, both financial and emotional, on caregivers, and it fights back against one of the worst parts of this disease, the crushing cost of being isolated from the world.
And this chart just lays it all out. The return on investment here is, well, it's a no-brainer. You spend a few $1,000s a year on swallowing therapy, and you potentially avoid a $40,000 hospital bill. You invest a little in training for caregivers, and you can save them 18 grand in associated costs. The numbers just speak for themselves.
So when you put it all together, you realize something really important. SLPs aren't just therapists. They are, in a very real sense, economic engines. But they're engines fueled by compassion. They deliver value that you can measure in dollars and cents, but also in pure, profound humanity.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. You know, if our voice is everything, if it's how we connect to the world, to the people we love, to who we are, then what's the real value of a person whose entire job is to refuse to let that connection break?